Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review covers the long-lost ZZ Top Eliminator kit. It's the Revell 124 scale model, kit number 85-4465, that hasn't seen reproduction in many years. It's a straight re-release with no changes from the original. Even the box art is retro style. Now, it's a skill level 4 kit requiring glue and paint. Although it is molded in color, you get 70 parts molded in red, chrome clear, and rubber tires, and the decals are those classic ZZ stripes from the original kit. The instructions are easy to follow, but please be advised this is an older mold, and it will require some extra work to make it look nice and have the fit and finish match your expectations. When you're done, it's about 6 3/4 inches long, 2 3/4 inches wide, and 2.5 inches high. Now in '76, ZZ Top's guitarist Billy Gibbons commissioned the construction of this at a local hot rod shop to build the Eliminator, which was based on a '33 Ford Coupe. And it took a while. It was street ready in '83, and the car was featured on the cover of their top-selling album Eliminator, which had over 10 million sales. Here are the contents of the kit. As you can see, it's a specific purpose kit. There won't be any extra parts. It was designed just to be the replica of the Eliminator. And although some people might call this the open box review, and they'd just stop and try to find some words to describe each piece, there's your open box review, and you can see it all in about 10 seconds. Now be apprised that we will be using Model Master liquid cement, sometimes super glue for strength, and white glue for some of the glass parts. Also, please heed all of the manufacturer's safety and use guidelines when you use any of the products that you see or hear mentioned in the review. Here are the decals for this kit. As you can see, they're colorful and the registry is good. So I would also suggest, however, for those big decals and even the contoured inner decals, that you use some of the aftermarket setting solutions that are available to help them settle onto the contours of the model. Construction will start with these parts to build the engine. As you can see, it's a pretty simplified motor, and it builds up with the block, the heads, and the intake being assembled, and then those are painted steel and aluminum, and the carb is a goldish tint, and the starter's black. The oil filter is white and the distributor is tan. Now paint the belts flat black and aluminum, and then add them, and then add the alternator, the AC and valve covers, and then the air cleaner and the exhaust manifolds. It actually doesn't look too bad built up, as you can see, and with some wires for the distributor, it might really enhance the appearance. But it is a simple build, and it has a great looking air cleaner. Next, we can grab these parts and work on the wheel assemblies. Press and roll the tread on a sheet of 220 sandpaper on a flat surface to give them a roughed up look. And then paint the wheel backs flat black, and install the wheel backs and snap rim in place and add the spinners to that. And then note that the fronts and rears are different sizes, so be careful to keep those separate and put them into place in the proper position. Next, we can begin work on the chassis assembly. So put the rear axle together and paint that steel and let that set and dry, and grab the engine assembly as well. Now paint the chassis flat black, and you'll notice that there's a script there towards the back end. If this is going to be a nice contest or display model, you might want to scrape that off with a blade, sand it smooth before you paint the chassis there. But then go ahead and add the engine and the rear axle into position in the places where they go. They're pretty well marked. And note that you need to remove any chrome or paint from any of the surfaces that you're going to join together for a good bond. Okay. Now paint the front suspension part steel and install the front axle. And then add the traction bars and sway bars with the tie rods. Now install the tires into place on the spindles to complete the assembly. Now you can paint the exhaust steel and the The muffler is aluminum. There's also some tips there. They can be chromed. But locate the positioning receivers for those, and then mate those up to the headers up in front at the engine, and put those into place. Now you've got a rolling chassis on which to build the rest of your model. Now it's time to work on the body, and you might say this is where the rubber hits the road, because there is, with my sample, there was a little bit of warpage, and there's a lot of flash that needs to be cleaned up, as well as some parting lines. When one of the issues that you're going to find is that separate panels need to be fitted to the body and then taped into position for paint. Prior to paint, you can't just paint the panels and then assemble it, because it's going to need a little extra work here to get the parts to fit right and be in position for a nice tight looking model. So you're going to grab those parts and then do the work with them with some sand sticks and some fine sandpaper to remove any blemishes, marks, or flash or parting lines, and get those ready for paint. Now we can remove the support bars from the fender and body pan there, and then sand and smooth all of the blemishes. And there are several severe sprue tabs on the sides that will need to be cleaned off and perhaps touched up with some putty as well. Now both sides of the top of the body there have some pretty heavy mold flash, so you'll need to clean those up with some sand sticks, perhaps scrape them off to get the high portions down first. Then clean up and sand the body overall to make it fit and finish a little better. So here's another tricky part. The hood is a three-piece hood, and so the best way to construct it is actually to put it together with little tack places, and then fit it to the body tub, and then you can then assemble it with some capillary action along the hinge seams for the side panels there, or you can put the entire thing into place and fit it there and then just glue it into position, but then of course you won't be able to open it up to see the motor. Alright, at this point we find actually the worst issue for the kit. There's quite a gap. It's almost actually oversized where the top meets the body shell, and so I made the decision at this point to fit and finish the top and the body shell the best I could, and forego even installing the interior. It's nearly impossible to get the thing into position properly with the top on. So I wanted a nice shelf display, so I went ahead and finished up the top here with some putty and some gap filling glue, and made that as good a fit as possible, and then got the body ready for paint. So after fitting the top and then going over the rest of the body, trimming any flash and fitting the panels into position the best that they can be placed, I went ahead and sanded the body to get rid of any imperfections, and then I gave it a good coat of primer both inside and out, and then a coat of silver paint for a base coat. After the base silver dried, I used Tamiya metallic red to give it a few light mist coats, and then a couple of light coats for a nice even finish over the entire body inside and out, to give it a nice luster with the silver base coat. After the base coat's thoroughly dry, I went to decal the body, and like I said, those large gorgeous looking stripes couldn't use the benefit of some setting solution. Use plenty of warm water to put them into position, and some setting solution to make sure that they fall into the contours properly, and decal the body with the available ones, and she looks pretty good. Now it's time to fit some of the chrome parts that you see here, and notice that the grill is really mounted heavily on some heavy sprue, and of course once you remove that, it leaves quite a disfiguration there, which you may need to even putty a little bit and touch up. I used the Molotel chrome pen for this to at least give it some semblance of uniformity, and then I used some thinned black paint with a 50-50 mixture to wash the grill, and then I installed the grill into position. Now the glass is installed with some white glue into the frame, and put that into the body, and then add the headlight buckets and use some white glue to install the lenses to that. Next I installed the tail lights onto the rear fenders, and then added a little bit of the clear red to the lens areas there to give it a nice finished appearance. And then I taped off the body step sides there and painted those with a flat black to make that look like a rubber step side, and that finished up construction. So I did poke the rear seat into position there on top of the frame, so it covers up that back end for at least a pretty decent representation of a coaster for this car. But it really has a stunning look to it. And if you take a little time to do the fit and finish properly, it actually looks pretty nice when you're done. It's too bad they couldn't have updated the mold for this for perhaps a one-piece body, etc. But it is what it is. We now have a chance to recreate the ZZ Top Eliminator kit once again. And when you get it all done and it's all said and done, well, there it is. If I were you, I'd buy one and put one on my shelf. Well, we hope you like this premium model kit review, and if you don't want to miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. But you can find us on Facebook and our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks.